If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I don't care about having a giant valuation. I don't care about having 1,000 employees. All I want to do is be able to, live a really good life. And I think that people need to, if they're interested in pursuing entrepreneurship, really, really understand what they're trying to get out of it.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, Ron Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory, walk.
Warning! This is a public service announcement. The Walk in Victory podcast is where we have conversations purposed to evolve lives. You may not want to evolve. Then tune into another bleeping podcast. Everyone else, enjoy the show. And here's our host.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening and or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, Ron Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory walks, you can have a great product. I'm going to use, and I like to use sports analogies, because with sports analogies, it can bring things to life. If there's a man listening, they're like, but you might not see it through the same lens that I see it through, right? So you can have a great product. And I'm going to use the Dallas Cowboys because they're America's team. The Dallas Cowboys is number one of the top 5 franchises in money making. They haven't won a Super Bowl since the 90s. You hear what I'm saying? They're top 5 in making money. They haven't won a Super Bowl since the 90s. Why is that? They've been branded as America's team. So from a marketing perspective, when you see the star, when you see the cloud, when you see the uniform, sorry about that, man. My computer's been acting up. So you don't even realize that you've been branded on the old nostalgic mindset of the franchise. You start to really think that, oh, wow, they are America's team. Because that's what your father told you. That's what the news tell you. They go on a lot of Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football games. So everybody's buying into the machine. So from a network perspective, they'll put them on because they know that they put them on, people are going to watch. From a nostalgic perspective, they know that they're hated because if you're liked, you're going to be watched. And if you listen to the talk shows, they lead in talking about them all the time, even when they're losing, because they know when they talk about the Cowboys, people are going to listen. Why is that? Because the brand is so entrenched in the mind of people that don't like them, people that do like them. It creates a polarization of conversation. And even if you are getting bad publicity is better than no publicity. And that's why they are a billionaire company. Marketing is important, and how you brand your position is important. But it's not only important of marketing and how, it's when. And we're going to talk all things marketing, all things mindset with Jake. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Naran. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining.
I'm a Giants fan.
I'm a Jet fan, so
That 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 lead was painful for me, but you could talk about the Yankees the same way, right? The Yankees are known as also probably one of the top 5 franchises in the world, and they haven't won since 2009. We act like we win every year. We haven't. Last year was a disaster against the Dodgers, but same
Yeah.
thing, right? Those pinstripes mean
The
something.
pinstripes mean something. So before we get into what we're going to talk about, I do have to ask this question. How do you feel about them relaxing the facial hair rule?
I have a close friend who cares a lot more than I do, and I thought he put it in a really great context. If you're winning every year, make every player shave. Do whatever you want. Have these strict rules.
He,
If
you
you're
can't
not
have strict
winning,
rules when you have
it's time to shake something up. We're not, we pretend to be winners. We haven't won in 15
Yeah,
years.
yo,
So
it's funny.
I don't
It's like
mind it.
when you're dating a woman and she got all these strict rules and everything. You're like, well, how many kids you got? I got 5 kids. You're like, you can't have strict rules with 5 kids. I, I don't kiss on the first night. You did a lot of kissing.
I felt a lot worse about the Nike logo getting put on the uniforms, which ended up not being that
Yeah,
big a
because
deal
it's so
anyway.
small. Can't even pause. You can't even see it.
Nike's kind of synonymous with the sports anyway at this
Yeah.
point. But I'm excited to see Aaron Judge with a beard. See the players how they look now. It's going to be interesting.
So you've been in marketing. You're in mindset training. Let's start by talking about the mindset of a marketer when they're sitting down with a potential customer or client. How do you approach that mindset? What are the factors, the things that you're looking to glean from a customer when they sit across the table from you?
A great question. I think that this is relevant not just to marketing, but if you're doing any kind of selling, if you're talking to any kind of prospects, it's really easy to come in with a game plan, with an idea about what you want to sell, what you want them to do. The reality is your job as any kind of salesperson or a business leader is to listen,
Mhm.
is to sit and try to deeply understand what is your prospect pain point? What are they staying awake at night thinking about? And are you able to provide a solution? Marketing has so many different levers that can be pulled. There's so many different areas within marketing. Most people will focus just on their specialty and come in and, the saying, if you're a hammer, everything's a nail. Just try to create a solution based on the service that they're offering or the product that they're offering. I think it's a lot more challenging to go in with a mindset that's open and to just really sit and listen and strategize. And that might mean having to say, I'm not the right person for this.
Wow.
My product's not the right thing for this, and we're not a good fit. And that's okay. I ran into a lot of problems early in my career where, you think you're a salesperson, you got to sell. It's all you have to do is sell. And it caused issues because you can will sales to happen. You can use techniques and get people to say yes when it's a bad fit, and then you deal with the consequences. Ultimately, it's not going to be a good fit. These people are probably going to churn, and it's going to be a bad situation for everybody involved. So I think that trying to deeply understand what the issue is and whether or not you can help, and then making a decision based on that and having the courage to say it's not a good fit is the most important thing when you're looking at new
You know what?
prospects.
This is the first time that somebody ever brought that point out, and I'm glad that you brought that point out because you may be at a level where you could provide a service, but you don't want to take on a company that may be ahead of you, and their needs start to create this thing where you start to work for them, juxtaposed to you having an agency or you're because you can have a client where they overwhelm you and the work is so massive that you don't have the capacity to sustain. However, if they pull and they say, we're gonna go in a different direction, you've done neglected everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of ways that it could be a bad fit, and I think that's a really great point. Taking a client because they're huge and you think they're going to provide a lot of revenue, but they might totally overwhelm your systems, your processes, and cause you to neglect other work is absolutely possible. I think there's also a factor of you need to balance. Look, sometimes you need revenue. It's hard to turn
Yeah,
down
you can say,
business when you don't
yeah,
have business. And it's really hard to give this advice to people who are just starting out, but you should have a really clear understanding of what your ideal client looks like. And really hurts to turn down money, but sometimes you have to maintain the integrity of the company. And as I grow my business, I see this more and more. There are people who come up who seem like they might be a good fit, and you really don't want to turn down the business. But if you really search your heart, you realize that it's not going to be a good fit, and it will end in just a poor experience for
So
everybody.
let's explore marketing mindset in an AI age. AI is running rampant. A lot of people understand some of the technology. Everything is new. Everybody's It's like the Wild Wild West. How has that impacted what it is that you do when you start looking at marketing campaigns? Does it save you hours? Is it intrusive? Where do you see the landscape of marketing coming to from this age?
Yeah. So take this answer with a grain of salt because everything is changing so rapidly, and every week there's a
Yeah.
new technology. I'm getting an update that the LLMs have changed dramatically. Up to this point, it has helped me
No.
immensely. It has allowed me to be way more effective. I think where people run into trouble is trying to do too much with it.
Mm.
For the administrative tasks like putting job descriptions together for people that I'm hiring, putting tasks together that I might not have thought of, putting contracts together and proposals together for clients, um, putting together reports, pouring through lots and lots of data that I get from either, organic social results or SEO results, and helping sift through it and find relevant data points to look at have been really helpful. And things like putting together content calendars and scheduling, it has made my life a lot easier and allowed me to be way more effective than I might have been before these tools exist. I think where people run into issues is when they try to create content at scale and don't inject personality and
Mm.
expertise into it. There needs to be some differentiation in what you're publishing versus all of the other just nondescript generic content that's going out in the world. And I think it's really easy to use Midjourney to create AI graphics and then use ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever to create all this copy. And you look at it and you read it and you think, wow, this is great. But I think people are starting to get wise to what an AI generated piece of content sounds like. I certainly am. The more I deal with it, the more I'm starting to recognize these patterns. But I think of it as, and I'm not the first person to say this, I think of it as a great intern. It's if when you're suffering from blank page syndrome and you're sitting there and you don't know where to begin and you don't know what topics to look at, starting to have a conversation with an LLM to figure out, okay, here's the client, here's what we want to post about, give me some potential topics, help me organize my thoughts. Let's put a blog piece together, and then going through it and editing it and adding that human element to it. It's extremely helpful.
Yeah, because
Definitely.
I'm glad that you said that. Like, and I wouldn't have put it that an intern, right? So when we think of the intern may have ideas, but they haven't had the experience, and they're coming from a place of like, like, oh, what we should do this, or we should do this, and sometimes they may come up with a good idea. More often than not, they're still novice, and I think that we're at that place with AI in terms of the novice. Um, it doesn't understand a lot of the nuances that needs to be understood. However, I do think that within the next 2 to 3 years, as marketers, we have an opportunity to be the voice, so to say, the leading expert, the Jimmy V, like, because this is new, right? And a lot of people don't understand how to use it. A lot of people don't understand how to develop it. As a marketer, when you start wrapping your mind around what potentiality could come out of you, found somebody that could speak well and could eloquently teach, right? And is there a potential that you can train them to be one of the leading voices and help transform their lives?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at all concerned about all of this
Mm.
destroying the agency that I've built. Who knows? I believe and hope that there's always going to be a space for relationship building and personality. I don't think that anytime soon there'll be. Look, at the end of the day, people are hiring me to implement marketing plans that they don't have the bandwidth to learn about and dig into the nitty gritty of. And they rely on me and trust me to make decisions for them. And even if they created some kind of AI automated marketing tool that can spin up all of the graphics that you need that look unique and differentiated from the other graphics, that create copy that's in your voice, that sounds like it's an expert position and can publish it automatically, it would still take care. And you can't just click a button and not look at it, not review it, not think about it, not understand whether or not it actually, you know, is getting your tone of voice correct. You still need some amount of personalization um, to make sure that that's all running smoothly. So, I mean, look, I'm extremely biased. If I'm wrong about that, it means I need to find a new line of work, or maybe not. Maybe I evolve to be able to handle that kind of thing and to be more of the facilitator, which to a certain extent I am
Yeah,
today.
so let's talk about you. We talked a lot about AI. What when did you know that you could go out on your own and start an agency and help other people to market their products, ideas, goods, or services? What was it for you that entrepreneurial bug?
I've been interested in entrepreneurship for many years. I started my first company back in 2014, 2013, maybe. It was a marketing technology and software company. It created loyalty rewards programs for small businesses in New York City. And I walked door to door to try to sell these local business owners on putting a kiosk on their counter so that people could check in with their phone numbers and get discounts on goods and services. At the time, we were too early. We were just before this loyalty rewards boom. And a couple of years into working on this, all of a sudden, these point of sale systems started incorporating this functionality, and nobody wanted to have two different tablets on their counter. And it ended up just, the idea was great, the execution was not. But that was my first taste of entrepreneurship, and I, since then, have always been, I don't wanna say obsessed, but entrepreneurship is definitely a way of life. It's not just like a job. Um, it's kind of a platitude, but, um, I knew from that point on I wanted to chart my own path, and I've had a number of corporate jobs, with small businesses, with large enterprises, and I've always had a hard time operating within those environments. I am a good team player, I get along well with others, but at the end of the day, there's always gonna be some directive given to me that I disagree with, and I'm going to be told, "This is the way things are done, and this is how you have to do them," and I'm gonna be really bitter about that. And so, but I got into marketing quite accidentally. I was running, an incubator program for WeWork.
Okay.
I ended up getting laid off from that, and, I joined one of my portfolio companies, which was a marketing agency that also had, uh, like a Shopify app. And that's how I got into the agency world. I got really interested in conversion rate optimization, which is basically helping consumers make purchase decisions by removing barriers in their user journey. And from there, I joined another agency. And after that agency wound down, I decided I could do it myself. I mean, once you understand what's happening behind the scenes, there's a big mental barrier to starting your own business. But outside of that mental barrier, I knew that there wasn't anything that I couldn't do to actually implement all of the software and processes and hiring to start this. So I just went for it back in May, and it's been a really great journey
Let's talk about
since.
the customer buying cycle, because for you to come into marketing at that place, I find to be dope because that's some next level mindset thinking. A lot of people would say that digital marketing doesn't work because I believe that they're doing it wrong. When we talk about the customer buying cycle, what are some of the things that are necessary for a marketer to consider first?
When I think about marketing, I think about it from the kind of three major
Mhm.
pillars within it. You have brand, which is the why, and why are you doing what you're doing and why should people care? You have product marketing, which is about your positioning, your packaging, your pricing, how are you actually presenting your product or service to people? And then you have the growth marketing side of it, or performance, where you're more often than not putting money into ads to try to
Mhm,
attract
mhm.
people. Um, you need all of them, and depending on the size of the company, the focus should change. If you're small, nobody's really going to care about your brand. You still need to have it. You still need to have a perspective. You need things that you stand for so that people can understand who you are. And it's essential for you to have your why, not just for people to find you and make decisions about whether or not they want to buy your product or service, but because it helps guide you as your North Star. But that positioning, I would say, is the most important because, especially if you're going up against big players, you need to help consumers understand how are you different, and you almost certainly need to offer the same basic things that their products or services do, and then add something on top of it. You almost certainly need to have a cheaper price, and you need to figure out what are the pain points that consumers have with the incumbents' products and services, and how can you position against those to attract people to you. And then the growth side is difficult because if you're small, you probably don't have a lot of ad dollars. So how are you going out and hustling to get people early on? It's going to be a lot of manual labor of outreach, of trying to hang out where your target market hangs out and, win a couple clients through that to grow.
I, if I was to say to you, if we looked at and we started out with sports, so I'm going to use a athlete, Michael Jordan's life as a marketer, and how he was able to make more money in sneakers than he was at the sport. Why is if you looked that as a case study for everything that you just said, those pillars, how would you dissect that?
Well, Jordan's the best.
Mhm.
So it's hard to relate that to uh, companies who are just starting out. And most of the work I do is, mid-sized companies, not ones that are just starting but have a little bit of marketing budget. For these giant companies, I mean, Michael Jordan, by the time he was selling sneakers, people already thought he was going to be,
Yeah.
you know, who he is, right? He was being heralded as the greatest basketball
Yeah.
player of all time early in his career. So that was all about brand, right? He had this mindset and work ethic that was unmatched. And that's what his brand is about, being the best. And, when you're wearing your Jordans, you're telegraphing to other people that that's your mindset and you are the best. So I think it's one of the challenges I have with podcasts that focus on case studies of that stature is that most people are not close to that and are never going
No,
to be close
yeah,
to
and
that.
I appreciate that real honest take, right? But I'm just really looking at not from his stature or from what he's accomplished, but from the fact that when you look at when he started from, to be able to sustain, I was talking about the sustainability, where a company now builds an entire, and maybe I should have elongated the conversation, where the company built an entire brand under his own brand, and they was able to sustain it. What nuances from the pillars that you could take from that? One, we already knew that people thought that he was going to be good, but we already had great basketball players. We had Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. Everybody else had sneaker deals, but the sustainability and how the pillars that you talked about helps to build a sustainable brand, not comparing a major brand to a minor brand.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, the most obvious one is looking at the brand, the why behind it all, and what I was talking about before with the um what the brand means to
Mm,
people and how people feel about wearing these sneakers and how um again, I'm not the first person to discuss this, but it's widely discussed how Jordan's competitors are not, Adidas. It's not New Balance. It's more like Beats by Dre. It's
uh,
a fashion
that's
statement. It's a mindset
I never
statement.
saw that
They
before.
are,
That's a great point.
yeah, it's in a category all by itself. People are making a statement when they're wearing their Jordans, and that is a very enviable position to be in when you have a brand. It is, as you said, I mean, it's one of the reasons Nike is the behemoth it is today. I mean, it totally, totally transformed that brand. So it's hard
So
to
I have a question for you right
it's hard
there,
to
because I think that I don't want to gloss over that point, and I think that that's a really point that we can dive into. When you're working with a small business and you're talking about their why and you're talking about that statement, what are some of the tactics that you use to help them? Because a lot of times in small businesses, we don't know our statement. We don't know our impact. We really don't know our why. Like, oh, I'm a construction guy, right? I just like to build houses. How do you help a person develop and craft that out so that it could become marketable?
I like to think about for any product or service, why should anybody care about
Mm,
anything you're saying? I mean, all of purchase decisions are made emotionally, except for, there are some essentials. You go to the market, you need to get bread and eggs. There's certain things, but even that, I mean, there's a reason why you're picking the products that you pick. But for anything that people don't need, which is the vast majority of things, there needs to be a positioning and branding elements that make a person just believe in the product or believe that they need this product for some reason. And so I think if you really dig deep, you really need to drill into why should anybody care about anything that you're saying. And sometimes it can be hard because especially in, you know, I'm not going to denigrate any of the markets that I work with, but there are some that are kind of boring. And sometimes it's hard to think about, this is, let's pretend like it's some kind of Excel spreadsheet. Why does somebody care about this? Well, you got to dig deeper. What are you doing? How are you changing this person's life? And there is always a reason. You just need to get deep
the
into,
why.
you know, yeah. And there's a great methodology called jobs to be done. The idea being you're never selling the product or the service, you're selling the feeling or the completed job. And one of the examples that's used a lot is you're not selling a hammer and a nail, you're selling a painting hanging on a wall.
Cool.
What is the outcome that somebody's looking for? And so let's look at Jordans. you're not just selling sneakers, you're selling a dream, you're selling a feeling. This person is gonna put these shoes on and feel like they're transformed. People are gonna look at them and think, those are sick shoes. This person's probably pretty cool. There's ego in there
Yeah,
and there's sex
yeah,
appeal in there. So, maybe a spreadsheet doesn't have that same inherent appeal to it, but you can say, all right, the spreadsheet is going to save you time and money. It's going to save you a headache. It's going to make you a more present father or spouse. It's going to make you look better in the eyes of your boss. Like, these are the things that we want to focus on. Like, what's
I
the
gotta ask you a
outcome?
question. I have to run to the bathroom. It's right next. I can still hear you. Um, when did you
Okay.
realize that you can do this, that this magic was within inside of you? And how was that barrier overcoming that I needed somebody to guide me for because you became an entrepreneur? Go ahead. Hello?
I'm here just thinking about the answer. I I struggle with this to this day. I mean, limiting beliefs are a cancer. And if you can't get over your anxieties and your self doubt, you'll never accomplish anything. So when did I when did I finally believe that I could do this? I mean, I don't know that I've even reached that today. I mean, the every day I am confronted with roadblocks and challenges that cause me to second guess myself and have doubt and put my face in my hands and wonder if I'm making a huge mistake by not pursuing something that's stable and easy and putting my family through the stress that I have because if I fail, what does that mean? Um, Candidly, I've done a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of soul searching and thinking and understanding about why do I have these thoughts and how can I get past them? And I think, one of the easiest ways to do it is to just figure out a way to ignore those thoughts and just look at your to-do list and cross things off and keep moving forward and put one foot in front of the other. Um, I take great solace in the fact that I'm insignificant in the grand scheme of life and we're all going to return to dust and none of this really matters. And so make of it what you will. And I think that that's a very comforting thought to me that, even the great virtuosos of their time are forgotten eventually. So why not take a chance and try to make something that will make me happy?
When you're working on a campaign and a client comes to you and they have a good product, a good service or whatever, but they're scattered. What are some of the things that you tap into? What is your vortex that you like to bring them in to help them to first identify? We talked about the who, what, when, how, and all of those. To identify that, what is your process, and why is those processes important?
Mm. Well, early on when I'm working with a client, I offer a really, really wide range of services. Some might say far too many
Just
services. Um, but if I have my pick of what to do, I try to go through a brand workshop that a friend of mine helped me develop that goes through all of the things we've discussed, the what, how, why, and positioning and competitor analysis and figuring out your tone of voice and messaging strategy. And so when we have all of those documents together, it helps keep everything very tight.
mm,
Our content and messaging strategy has a point of view and a purpose. And if we're confused about it, we can say, all right, well, we did all this work about who are the personas that we're trying to target. So does this piece of content speak specifically to one of these personas? We already know how we want to sound. We know if we're going to sound more professional or more casual, if it's going to be educational, if it's going to be um, entertaining, and we kind of just mix and match to make sure that we have um, content that is very specifically targeted to the person who we're trying to get this message to.
and when you're going through that process, how do the recipient, because most people don't like to really own up to the fact that they're scattered, right? Most I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to language the question in that way, judging people. So I'm gonna remove the judgment. A lot of times, people may not realize.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I'm so sorry, man. My computer is.
It's okay.
I
No
I'm
worries.
putting it in the shop to get more. I edit my videos. For those of you listening, I might edit this part out, but I edit my videos on my computer, and it took up all of my hard drive space. And I cleaned the hard drive. I have to put a this computer has like um X amount of gigabytes. I'm gonna have to put a terabyte of hard drive into the computer.
Mm.
I have so many interviews that I can't be away from my computer for the amount of days that it needs to go into the shop. And I only have one computer. I have a studio with another computer, so what I'm gonna have to do, but I don't live in the same town with my computer. Like right now, I'm at my mother's house. Uh, and I'm gonna tie this into marketing, right? So for the platform that I'm on, I don't like to cancel interviews because people take that as a slight or it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah, it's tough.
So it's like, all right, how now do I accommodate the interviewee, my personal situation, which is a real situation that you're living through, and then being able to be in a position on a platform where your work is still respected. And that's what marketing is, right? Being able to
Mm.
navigate through all of those things, understanding the customer's need, understanding your position, like the one of the most brilliant things that you've said is when to say no, but also understanding that the bottom line has to be met. And you
Mm.
began lamenting about being an entrepreneur. Like it's not easy. It's you got bills to pay, you got family to feed, and all. How do you juggle all of those little nuances? Like me trying to juggle right now with a computer that at any time will throw me offline.
I I think it's a great question. I think it's a really important answer for anybody who's considering entrepreneurship to hear. Because I used to have podcasts, and it was all about how media today has done the world a disservice by painting entrepreneurship as this happy-go-lucky, fun environment where, you have your Shark Tanks and you have your, um, a lot of media that portrays it as fun, and it's not.
Well,
It's predominantly a life where you're alienating your friends and your family, you're neglecting your health, you're dealing with tons of anxiety, you're maxing out credit cards, you are lonely. It is it is not a desirable lifestyle. And I feel like, the Mark Cubans of the world have made it seem like not it's not Mark's fault. I think the media has portrayed it as sexy, and it's mostly not. Um, of late, I balance it by just focusing on what's important in my life, which is my wife and my children
Mm.
and my friends, and trying to look at it as the privilege that it is. I have a privilege to try to build this company, to provide jobs for people, to provide services for clients, and it's not fair to myself or my family to take out the frustrations and the anxieties that I have in my business on those people. And I really, really try daily to practice gratitude and think about all of the things that are beautiful and great in my life, because the reality is the worst case scenario is that this fails, and that would suck. And I would be really bitter and angry about it, but it's not affecting my health. I'll have to go get a 9 to 5 job, which I promised I'd never do again, but shit happens.
Well,
Maybe this one has to happen. But I think focusing on the good and focusing on like really, really thinking about how this is a choice that I'm making. This is not something that's being done to me. Every day I'm choosing to pursue this life.
from that perspective, and from what I'm hearing from the way that you're talking, your mental health, one, you're not gonna be back out getting a job.
I hope not, man. I really hope not.
I can. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 19. I'm 50 years old. You might not make all the money. We was talking pre. I was able to put my daughter through the Stone King.
I mean,
You know what I'm saying? I didn't make.
look, that's what it's all
Yeah, I
about.
didn't make all the money,
I also,
but I got the biggest house on my
speaking
block.
of, I was talking before about misconceptions with entrepreneurship. I think that again, Shark Tank and things like Y Combinator and Crunchbase and tech media in general has made people believe that the only path that somebody can take as an entrepreneur is to go build a 0 to 1 idea, have some new novel breakthrough technology, raise millions and millions of
Yeah.
dollars, hire thousands of employees. But the reality is most entrepreneurs don't achieve that and shouldn't even aim to achieve that. I mean, that's where, I mentioned I was at WeWork, and that was at the time I was there, it went from, something like an $8 billion company to a $50 billion company. And then it went back down to zero. And I was running an incubator where I had 70 or so portfolio companies, each of which was trying to raise capital. And that was what I thought entrepreneurship was, only that, as opposed to starting an agency or going and being a service provider, starting a plumbing business or a landscaping business or an electrician business, um, starting an events company, whatever. There's all sorts of different business opportunities that somebody can pursue. And you, as an entrepreneur, have to understand what your goals are. If your goals are to build $100 million company plus, that's great, but you understand it has to be technology to scale, and you're going to have to hire a lot of people and raise a lot of capital. For me today, having seen a lot of different early stage companies, that's not my goal. I want a lifestyle company. I want something that brings me enough cash to support myself, to support my family, to enjoy the finer things in life. I don't need to, travel in private jets. I just want to be able to do the things that I want to do. I want to go see live music. I want to take my wife out to dinner. I want to be able to, you know, live comfortably, but I don't care about having a giant valuation. I don't care about having 1,000 employees. All I want to do is be able to, live a really good life. And I think that people need to, if they're interested in pursuing entrepreneurship, really, really understand what they're trying to get out of it. Because if you care about that, what I just talked about, that doesn't have to be, a brand new breakthrough technology. It doesn't have to be something that's so cutting edge. I mean, you can achieve what I'm talking about with many, many different types of businesses.
And there you have it, everybody. I told you we sit you at the feet of the masters. This conversation touched on a lot of different aspects. One, brand building. Two, why. And Jake was able to really explain his why. And when you're seeking someone to work on your digital marketing campaign, you need somebody that has that kind of compassion and conviction, because they're going to help you dive and tap in a little bit deeper into your why. And a lot of times we understand the product that we're building, we understand the goods that we're giving, we understand the services that we're providing, but we really lose focus on the why are we doing it. And the marketer helps you to tap into that. Jake, my last question for you. Books. I see in your background you have a lot of them. I always ask 90% of my guests, what books, fiction, nonfiction, if you were sitting down talking to a bunch of teenagers and giving them some advice that you would recommend?
All right, this is going to be a little bit of a rant,
Go
but
ahead.
I'm going to give you an answer. I went through many, many years as an entrepreneur where I felt like if I wasn't reading nonfiction or business related books, I was wasting my time, and that I needed to constantly be learning and figuring out tools and skills to grow my business. And over the past couple of years, I have realized that fiction can teach you a ton about the world and give you a lot of skills that you might be looking for from nonfiction. And also, it's just oftentimes so much more enjoyable than trying to slog through some business book that just is uninteresting and dry. That said, I'm a huge fan of Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. It is a history of human existence from our earliest days to today. It gets a little bit of flack because I think uh, there's a little bit more opinion
Oh,
sometimes than most historians
yeah.
would prefer. I think he makes some assumptions and conjecture about the way we've evolved as humans, but it is unbelievably insightful and it is very interesting. It's one of those books that I could not put down once I picked it up. So that's what I would recommend.
We don't ask you for Cash Apps, Venmos, Apple Pays, or any of those things. But what we do ask you for is that you hit like and subscribe. Your likes, your subscriptions is your contribution to our uh, airwaves. It allows these conversations to get to the ears of many. All of Jake's information is in the description. So in the description, it's going to say in this introduction, and then when you see Jake's name, it's going to be lines. And I try to make the lines a lot, like at least the full sentence. You click that line, you're going to go into Jake's infrastructure. I need you to follow him on social media. I need you to get a clarity call if you're in business so that you can see what direction your company needs to go in. If you're missing one of those pillars, you heard the man. He can help you get there. Not only that, if you show me your cell phone, I can show you your thoughts. If you're in business and you're not pulling up people like Jake, people like myself, if that's not in your algorithm, then you're looking at the wrong stuff. So that's why you need to be in his social ecosphere. And not only that, don't walk with your head down. Don't walk making excuses. Don't walk thinking that, oh, I'm going to sell a business. I'm going to make $200 million, just like they do on Shark Tank. No, it's the road to victory is a long slow and toilous journey, but you can walk in victory. Enjoy your day. Peace. Thanks, Jake. No, yeah, you're like a philosopher. Oh, I know this. You got deep, you got deep answers. On your side, what is it saying? Okay, because on my side it's still recording. All right. It's just my computer. I just ordered this computer last year. I run through computers. I had somebody to do my editing for me, and his wife took ill, and now I started since October doing all of the editing myself, and it just overloaded this computer. I should have got a gaming. I should have got a gaming computer with more bandwidth. So all I'm going to do is take it and upgrade it, and it's going to cost me $200, but it's going to take 3 days. So I was just looking. I might put it in a shop tomorrow and get it out Monday because I don't have no interviews on Monday. That's going to be the best thing for me. This will be up in a couple of weeks. I'm taking. No, this will be up in a couple of weeks. I'm taking my latest interviews and putting them up first. I have interviews that I fell behind on because my friend took ill. So I'll go back in archives and bring them up later. But I'm not gonna keep the new people waiting while I try to figure out what he left. So let me ask you if you need the raw so some people ask me for the raw video because I'm really an audio only and I do clips. If you need a video, email me and I'll shoot it over to your team. And so just let me know what you need from me. Yeah. Now, the only thing I'll share it with you, but the only thing I ask is when I produce the actual podcast that you still share it again. You know what I'm saying? That helps me out. If the guests don't share it, sometimes I have guests that does a really good job. Then I have some guests that don't even like. I'll try to tag them in it. They won't even repost it and stuff like that. So I said I don't. That's not a demand of mine, but I am going to be more mindful of asking people to really help to get because it just helps me out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to follow you on Instagram. I'm gonna send you the link. Probably on. I got to go to Washington this weekend to go pick up my daughter from college. Give me till Monday, and and then I'll have the link. But I'm gonna follow you on Instagram. If you don't get the link by Monday, just text me on DM me on Instagram and say, hey, don't forget the link, and then it'll jot something. All right. Enjoy.